All right, so if you have followed to step 4, and if you went to register for a Spoonacular free API, and you've got a new API key, then we can start here. Again, small package, small starter code with an index.js file and absolutely no styles, because this is not about styles for now. This is about the functionality and about how to use a larger API with an API key and how to send in custom parameters to get custom responses from the API. Alright, so we looked at the free APIs that don't require an API key. Basically, you hit an endpoint, you get a response. That's about it. Now, what happens when you have to work with a slightly more complicated API? For example, Spoonacular has so many endpoints where you can get many things. Like this is their whole API reference to get a bunch of information. So let's do something. Let's find a random endpoint, and there's a search by ID. I want to find the random one. Get random recipes. Okay, so here we have an endpoint says HTTPS API spoonacular.com recipes random, right? So if we go to this endpoint, we should get a bunch of random recipes. Okay, makes sense. So let's do it. Let's do it in the browser. Interesting, right? We have a status failure, code 401. You are not authorized. Please read this here. Well, we can read that here. All right, maybe that is not working for us. Maybe we just need to use the Axios request, and then we will get something from it. All right, so let's do that. Again, how to get Axios, right? Introduction, getting started. We need to, in this case, included in our script. I could have included it for you, but this is good practice. So we include the Axios library before our index.js. All right, let's make sure to save that. We go to our index.js and we make an Axios request. We say, okay, well, axios.get, and we grab this endpoint and we throw it in here, and then we .then, and then we grab the response, and then we console log the response. Just like we had a bunch of data before with our free APIs, right? We should get something back. And let's go here. This is our app, our very small app, right? We have this Spoonacular example. What happens if we need an API key? So this is loaded in the browser. So let's reload it. Oh wait, request failed 401. Seems like something like here. All right, I guess then we actually have to read this authentication. I guess we have to do that. All right, so let's go there. Okay. So Spoonacular is telling us that to use the API, you need an API key. You can get a free one simply by signing up. And if you've read the directions in the handout, you already signed up and you were able to go to your dashboard and grab the API key. And it's telling us all that we need to know. Once you have your API key, you have to put it in the request URL. So we have to put it into the request URL here. Just saying API key equals your API key, so on and so forth. All right, so let's do that. Where do I get my API key? Well, I'll go here and I'm already logged in, and if I remembered correctly, it's my console and profile, and I need to show this here, show hide API key. Now, we will talk more about this. These are definitely not the things that you want to show to the whole world. In fact, I'm going to generate a new API key later just because, meaning that this one will not be valid anymore. So I will take this API key here, I will copy it, and I will paste it here. And I will assign it to the variable Spoonacular API key. Good. Now let's go back to our directions. A lot of this will have to be with reading directions because every API is different. Every approach is different. In this case, they're saying API key is going to be your API key here. So what they're saying, you need to pass in the query parameters after random, and we need to pass in the API key here. Let me make this a little larger. Now, two ways to do it. Actually, a couple ways to do it. One way to do it, if you remember, through string interpolation, right? So we can do the following, and we will do API key. And again, this has to be exact. It has to be exact. Case sensitive, space sensitive, everything sensitive. So API key, and I will string interpolate the API key here, and I'll pass in this variable here, and we'll pass that in, and we will save. So now we have followed the Spoonacular directions, and we're saying, okay, API spoonacular.com/recipes/random, which we need, right, for the random. Let's go back to our docs and full documentation. Whoops, docs, full documentation, and we want to get a random recipe. Get random recipes. So in addition to this, we also need to pass a parameter called API key so that Spoonacular API knows that we are registered for it, essentially. That's all. Let's throw it in here. Let's save. Let's go back to our example, and well, let's refresh. Again, refreshing means reload everything and rerun this Axios GET request now with an API key. So let's do that. Now we have something new. Now we got, once again, a response .data .recipes, an array, and we got a random recipe, and we have a random recipe here. So let's do this. Let's show this random recipe that we got. Let's go step by step. Response .data recipes. Now, again, remember, as I've said, this is a review of all the concepts. Recipes is an array, not an object. Note this here. And it has exactly one recipe at index 0. So we grab that with index 0. Because data is an object within an object, recipes is an object within an object. However, the recipe itself is an array. So let's save that. Let's reload. And we have this random recipe for actually something pretty cool. Butternut squash gnocchi with whiskey cream or something. I don't know, sounds good. So we got a random recipe and we passed an API key. However, what if you want to explore this a little more? What if you want to pass something else here, right? Because there's a lot here. There's a lot. And this is just as this particular API. Let's go to the full documentation. Full documentation. Let's see. What if you want to search a specific recipe, right? So look, we have a endpoint called get API Spoonacular recipes complex search. And it's giving us a bunch of query parameters. So it says, okay, cuisine Italian, excludes Greek. I don't know what they have against Greeks, but fine. Diet, vegetarian. It's just examples, essentially. Intolerances, so like I can throw in gluten intolerance, gluten allergy type, and whatnot. So how about we do a complex search? Now, Spoonacular is giving us all of the things that we need. So let's do a complex search here. Let's throw this out and let's do a complex search. So we will need an access request. And we will pass this here, complex search. And then dot, well, let's make this bigger. Dot then, response, and then console log response.data. Somebody that's attentive should already see that I'm doing something wrong. So what am I doing wrong? If somebody is paying attention here, but let's see. So yeah, I took their endpoint and I pasted in my access request, and I'm expecting response.data. Awesome. Let's get back a bunch of amazing recipes. Let's reload this, and oh no, once again 401. What did I forget? Well, I forgot that API key, right? Because in addition to whatever I'm searching for, I need to provide this API key. All right, so I will provide it. I will provide it here, and I will do some string interpolation, whatnot. And you know what? I'm just going to copy and paste, just so I don't make a mistake here. I might still make a mistake, but we will see. Okay, so we have now an endpoint going to the complex search, and we are sending an API key. So we should have something back, right? We should. All right. Array. A bunch of things. A bunch of random things. So we have a response object, we have the results, and we have array a bunch of recipes, right? So how about we send in some actual queries, right? The way that they're telling us. Let's see. How about we say, I want only Italian cuisine. Why not? So I will do a query parameter. I will add up another one, and I'll say, okay, and cuisine equals what? Italian. So what are my query parameters now? API key and cuisine equals Italian. It's telling us exactly what it needs, a string. and I'm sending it in. All right, let's see what happens. Let's see the last response. We have a bunch of things here, asparagus, something, garlicky kale, whatnot. Let's see if we reload it. Well, seems like we have a bunch of Italian food. Plantain pizza, Roman tomato bruschetta, broccolini quinoa pilaf, and so on and so forth. What if we send in cuisine Chinese? Is it an option? I don't know. We will see. If Italian is, I would guess, right? Play around things, see if you can break things. Array 10. Oh, look at that. I have some mango fried rice. I have gluten-free. I have Chinese chicken salad. I have Chinese chicken salad with something else. I have for some reason, I have a Korean sweet and sour chicken. I guess they mapped it with Chinese cuisine. Fine. I won't argue with them. However, we then provided some more query parameters, right? How about if we go and say, I only want vegetarian. So diet, string, example, vegetarian. All right, so I want Italian and diet vegetarian. So now I have three parameters: API key and cuisine Italian and diet vegetarian. Let's save that. Let's go back here. Let's reload. We have again an array of 10 elements. Seems like a bunch of vegetarian options. Roman tomato bruschetta, golden wheat panzanella, can't pronounce that, easy eggplant parmesan, and so on and so forth. So this is one way to work with a complex API and pass in parameters. So we went from essentially getting a random cat fact to working with a complex API, passing in parameters, passing in specific query parameters, and getting back very, very specific responses which are tailored to our needs. And let's see what we can do with this. Let's see if we can combine all of this that we did so far, and have a very simple application that will throw us back a recipe. And when we click generate a random recipe, and will throw us back a random recipe over here and show it to us, essentially a name with the recipe description or something like that from the Spoonacular API, using everything that we learned so far: JavaScript, HTML, CSS, promises, working with APIs, everything together to create a very simple, very specific application that will generate for us a random recipe, and it will show for us here when we click a button, not when we reload a page and the JavaScript file reruns again, but when we click a button. And then when we click a button again, another recipe should show up. And when we click a button again, another recipe should show up. Yeah, you get the point. So I'll see you there.